boys and girls. Thank you for joining me for story time. I sure do miss you and I hope you're doing really well. So this week our science theme is all about things in the sky, like the sun and stars. Our focus question this week that we're going to research is, what do you see in the sky? Our 5C project is going to be for you to use your creativity and your critical thinking to create a sky display. You get to use your creativity and your imagination and any materials that you choose to create this project. So now we're going to start our story time. Our story is called Bringing Down the Moon, and it's written by Jonathan Emmett and illustrated by Vanessa Caban. Boys and girls, I want you to first connect with the text. What do you already know about the moon? You can start thinking about also, what do you predict will happen in this story? Who might some of the characters be? What other questions do you have? I'm going to have you pause the tape and go ahead and ask some of those questions and answer some of those. All right, boys and girls, here we go into our story. Remember, as I read the story, you need to listen and think about, who are the characters? What is the setting? What is the plot? Remember, plot is the beginning of the story details, the details from the middle, and the main details from the end of the story. And usually in that middle and end is a problem and a solution. Hot diggity, exclaimed Mole as he burrowed out of the ground one night. Whatever's that? The moon was hanging in the sky above him like a bright silver coin. Mole thought that it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Whatever it is, I must have it, Mole said to himself. I know, I'll jump up and pull it down. Thump, thump, thumpity bump. Mole was so busy jumping, he didn't think about the noise he was making. And he woke up Rabbit in her burrow. Mole, said Rabbit, what on earth do you think you're doing? Hello, Rabbit, said Mole. I'm trying to pull down that shiny thing. You mean the moon? Asked Rabbit. So that's what it's called, said Mole. You'll never do that, said Rabbit. It's not as close as it looks. But Mole would not give up. I know, he thought, I'll get a stick and poke it down. He found a long stick and poked it up at the moon. Swish, swish, swishity, swish. Mole was so busy poking that he tripped over Hedgehog in his bed of leaves. Ooh, we have another character. And he sure does have a problem trying to get that moon. He's tried 2 solutions. I wonder what he's going to try next. Mole grunted. Hedgehog, what are you up to? Hello, Hedgehog, said Mole. I'm trying to poke down the moon. You'll never do that, said Hedgehog. It's not as close as it looks. But Mole would not give up. I know, he thought. I'll throw something at it and knock it down. He found some acorns and threw them at the moon. Plink, plink, plinkety, plink. Ouch, said Squirrel. Mole, have you gone nuts? Hello, Squirrel, said Mole. I'm trying to knock down the moon. You'll never do that, said Squirrel. It's not as close as it looks. But Mole wanted the moon so badly he would not give up. I know, he thought. I'll climb a tree and carry it down. Mole had never climbed a tree before, It was hard work, and he was scared to be so far from the ground. But he kept on going until he saw the moon resting in the leaves above him. Mole stretched out his paws, but just when he thought he had the moon, he slipped. Oh, eek, ouch, oh! Mole tumbled down and landed splash in the middle of a puddle. Hot diggity drat, thought Mole, I almost had it that time. Then he noticed something floating in the puddle beside him. It was pale and wrinkled, but Mole recognized it at once. The moon, whispered Mole. It must have fallen down with me. He reached out to pick up the moon, but as soon as he touched it, it broke into pieces and vanished. Mole sat in the puddle and cried. Rabbit, Hedgehog, and Squirrel came running up. Are you all right, Mole? Asked Rabbit. I'm all right, sobbed Mole, but the moon isn't. I pulled it down and then I broke it. And it was so beautiful, and now I'll never see it again. Oh, Mole, said Rabbit, you couldn't have pulled down the moon, and you couldn't have broke it, said Hedgehog. And you'll certainly see it again, said Squirrel. Look, high up in the sky above them, the moon was coming out from behind a cloud. Oh, whispered Mole, and it's just as beautiful as ever. Mole, Rabbit, Hedgehog, and Squirrel stood and stared up at the moon together. It is beautiful, said Rabbit. Very beautiful, said Hedgehog. Very beautiful indeed, said Squirrel. Yes, said Mole, but it's not as close as it looks. The end. All right, boys and girls, now it's time for you to retell this story. Remember when you're retelling it to name the characters, the setting, and the plot. Don't forget, the plot is the details from the beginning of the story, the main details from the middle, and the end. When you're retelling all those details, don't forget to say the story's problem and solution. It was such a great story. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you get to go and see the moon tonight. Have a great day, boys and girls. Thanks for joining me.